Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. I was watching an Angela Benedict video last week, and she was talking about the commercialism of the goth subculture. And I've also heard Riri Phillips also, talk about this in some of her videos. And this is something I really wanted to talk about because I'm a guy who has a degree in business, and as a guy who writes goth YA fiction, I really look at this as there's a positive to it and there's a negative to it. And I really wanted to present a balanced take on it. Yes, it's really nice that a lot of businesses are coming to goth YouTubers to ask them to advertise products. However, what everybody in the subculture really has to look out for in this push to commercialize goth is the efforts to try to put goth in a box, because a box is a bad place to be. Because as a guy and as a part of the African American community, I've watched my community, fall apart because people wanted to put black into a box. And when you put people in boxes, it's a narrow place, it's a confining place, and you only get what's in that box, and it's very limited. You're not getting the full experience of the subculture. You're only getting what somebody is telling you the subculture is supposed to be. And this is one of the things I can agree with Angela Benedict on, is that the goth subculture is a broad thing. It shouldn't be put into a box. You should go out and be able to experience whatever you want to experience and go and see these things, because when you go out and see them, you're going to get a completely different perspective on them. When you go to a store and actually pick up and hold a CD like Angela has said that she has done, or you go out and you find that, that holy grail item at that thrift store, or you go out and, you go out and go to that concert, or you go to an event like the Disneyland or the Wave Gothic Treffen. It's completely different when you go out here and experience it versus you getting some commercial products together and, putting yourself together. Like some people talk about, like they have issues with Hot Topic, what they call the goth in the box back then. But that's what a lot of businesses want to do, because you have to understand, with businesses want to make money, and they want to be able to sell people products. So they want to be able to find out what appeals to people and package it up as what they consider to be goth. But what they don't understand about the subculture is, everything is goth, and there is no one definition, and there shouldn't be one definition to what is goth. And that, because if there's one definition for what is goth, then it really sucks the heart and soul out of the subculture, and it just makes it a mass market product. I mean, what makes the subculture great is that people are free to express themselves, and they are free to create whatever they want to create using whatever products they want to use. I mean, that's no two goths are alike, and two different goths will take the same products and create a whole different look altogether. And that's something we really have to look at, regarding the subculture, is that people, when people want to package, they want to create a package and, tell you this is goth, this is the image. That's similar to what the elitists want to do. They want to create that pre-packaged image that is representative to the world as what goth should be. And that shouldn't be at all. It should not be at all. It should be whatever you want it to be. I mean, and when it's whatever you want it to be, that's a good thing, because that means everybody has the freedom to go out here and express themselves the way they want to express themselves. They're not being compartmentalized and put into a box. Because when you put people in boxes, again, it's not a good thing, because all it does when you put people in boxes is it creates stereotypes. And I know about, stereotypes, because in the black community, this is what we have when we have this black box. And it's something I explored in my novel Spellbound, about that box, because that box is a very limiting place. You have people trying to fit themselves into this box and meet this unrealistic standard, and try to make themselves fit into a standard created by some imaginary person or some imaginary people. I mean, that's not living. That's really not what the subculture is. The subculture, again, is about expressing yourself, having the freedom to express yourself, and the freedom to be what you wanted to be. And that's why you became a part of the subculture, because you wanted the freedom to be whoever you wanted to be. I mean, if you wanted to fit into a box, you would be a normal person, or what they call a normal person, wearing the regular clothes like everybody else. But you came into the subculture so you could be somebody completely different and be who you feel comfortable being. And when you have these commercial people, that's what they want to do, because again, they want to appeal to audiences, and they want to sell, the subculture to people. They want to sell it in a way that appeals to those mainstream mom and pops. But this is an alternative lifestyle, and you cannot, as I see it, put an alternative lifestyle into a box. You cannot say that you're going to make a, prepackaged goth. I mean, everybody's way of expressing themselves is completely different. And the other thing that a lot of goths really need to look out for with this whole commercial packaging is what people try to do is they want to pit one group up against another group. And I've seen this in the black community done, and it's created literally like a civil war type scenario where we have, your pro-blacks versus your regular black people. We have your black Christians. We have your hoteps. We have your, strong independent black women. You have your black men. You have all these groups fighting and jockeying for a position to get the approval of an imaginary person to define what will be black to America. And I would hate to see, different people who dress in different styles, like traditional goth, pastel goth, the new goth, the rivet heads, the romantic goths, and many others, fighting to jockey to win the approval of an imaginary goth overlord. That would be the subculture truly lame. You have to have all those people fighting like that, because I see that in the black community, and that civil war has really stagnated the growth of the African American community. Now, when I think about the goth subculture, some people say it's dead, but I think it can. It's still a growing culture. It's still in a place where there is a lot of growth. You have a lot of kids interested in it, and it takes people in the subculture willing to be open and teach, like Angela Benedict does in her videos, and many others go out to teach about what was great about the 90s and tell those stories so that it can be passed on to the next generation. And it takes us to not be fighting with each other, but working together to preserve a culture, because when you look at the culture, again, it's taught and passed on from generation to generation. And when people are seen fighting each other, again, that's what kills a culture, because those who would want to be a part of the subculture will look at all that infighting and then be discouraged from wanting to be a part of the subculture. And that's going to drive people who are important to the subculture away, like baby bats. And baby bats are extremely important to the subculture, because this is the next generation of kids who are going to pass the subculture on to the next generation. And if they see older goths and goths of today fighting with each other and having infighting, they're not going to feel an incentive of being a part of the goth subculture. They're not going to feel a sense of inclusion, and they're not going to feel welcome. So when I look at this gothic subculture from a panoramic perspective, the last thing I want to see is the infighting and feuding that would happen when you have people compartmentalized into stereotypes. Because when you have people compartmentalized into stereotypes, you're going to have groups fighting each other. Now, I would hate to see the goth subculture online turn into what black YouTube and black online media has become. Now, black online media, as I see it, is a complete cesspool. I mean, you cannot present a difference of opinion to someone without someone getting upset and wanting to argue back and forth. You have people making response videos. You have people going and having beefs with each other. And I don't see that in the goth subculture. And that's one of the things I love about the goth subculture, is that, two people can have a different view of things. Two people can have a difference of opinion on things, and they can agree to disagree and then enjoy the parts of the subculture they enjoy. And that's what I love the most about the goth subculture is that, everybody feels open and the openness of things. And I fear that when you have commercial companies coming in, they're going to try to, again, put goths into a box. And when you do that and commercialize it, you're going to have two goths thinking that their version of goth is the only goth, and they're going to start going back and forth with each other. And this is what I've seen, in the black community as it relates to your pro-blacks and your hoteps, your strong independent black women and your black men. And I don't want to see that come to the goth subculture. It's a beautiful subculture. And again, it's that openness, it's that friendliness. I mean, some of the nicest people I've ever run into online have been people in the goth subculture, and they've been willing to share, things about the subculture in their videos and even talking online. They're willing to talk about things. They're willing to share, and that's what I like about the goth subculture. And I fear, you know, that's going to get lost in commercialism. People are going to start, like they do in the black community, getting secretive and trying to keep information away from each other. They're going to try to make it where they're going to try to be this elite group, like the talented 10th in the black community, where they're going to be they're going to try to jockey to be this definition of what goth is, and that's ridiculous as I see it. Again, I see it as goth is goth, and whatever style you want to dress in, that's your style, and you should have that freedom, to dress in that style. And as I see it, fashion is only one part of it, but the other part of the goth subculture that I've come to appreciate in the 3 years I've started getting more into it is the music, and that's another part that I feel that is getting lost in all this commercialism, because the foundation for the subculture is the music, and it was the music that really started to get me more and more inspired as a writer and writing stories. I mean, the whole novel Spellbound was based on that Susie and the Banshees song, and that's one of the things that inspired me was that song Spellbound. Now, there's a London After Midnight song that I'm using for this story, Legend of Mad Matilda. It's the one where good girls go to die. That's a song that inspired me, and I wouldn't have learned about that again if it wasn't for goth YouTubers talking about the music. And I've had other goth YouTubers tell me more about different bands, and I've gone to go listen to them and discover them. And that was one of the great things about being online, is that I've learned, so much more about the music. People telling me about different bands, and then I would go, type it in the search bar and discover it, and that was very a great experience for me. I mean, it's a different experience than holding the CD in your hand, but I managed to discover this music and learn more about it. I've learned about so many different goth bands, and even bands that I didn't even know were goth that I was listening to as far back as 1989. I mean, the first goth song I ever heard was a Love and Rockets song called "So Alive." And and I didn't even know it was a goth band back then, but I was listening to it on Z100 back in the 1980s, and I've listened to several Cure songs back in the 1980s, and I didn't know that they were goth bands. But rediscovering, the music and learning more about it, that was one of the great things to come out of, writing about African American goths and the goth subculture, and learning more about the goth subculture, because as I see it, this is a great subculture, and I love telling stories featuring gothic characters. And I always made an effort, even before I started immersing myself for these three projects I've been working on, to incorporate goth characters in my stories, and learning more and more about the subculture, and getting to know the people. It's been an enjoyable experience, and I'd hate to see that experience, ruined for the next generation by commercialism. I hate to see, things deteriorate to the point where it is in the black community and with the black online social media, where we have people going back and forth and having beefs and arguments and making response videos that go on for years and years on end, and there being endless and needless drama. One of the things, again, that I enjoy about the goth subculture is that people have that freedom to be themselves. They have that freedom to express their opinions. They feel comfortable being who they want to be, And no two goths are alike. No two goths have the same style. And they can take whatever commercial products they want, draw from the sources that they have been inspired by, and create what they believe they want goth to be, and create their own dark aesthetic that they feel most comfortable with. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.